Oh hey y'all, it's Krypton Critics. I'm here to review the newest Fox Marvel film, Deadpool 2. Obviously a sequel to the first one that came out in 2016. It stars Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, Josh Brolin as Cable, Zazie Beetz as Domino, Next Time Teenage Warhead is played by Brina Hild, Russell is played by Julian Dennison, Vanessa is played by Morena Baccarin, Colossus is voiced by Stefan Kick. I think that's pronounced it. Dopinder is played by Karan Sony, and Weasel is played by T.J. Miller. So, you know, a lot of people when they saw the first movie, they lost their shit. It was the biggest, you know, domestic box office of any R-rated movie, and it just surprised so many people. And a lot of people like really praised it for originality. But in my personal opinion, there's a lot of times that I think originality is sometimes overrated. In many cases, like it should never be the end all be all of what makes a movie great. To me, it's more important of act structure and cinematography and sound editing in general. But I did give the first one a B plus, so don't hate me. But some people acted like that movie was like the second coming and all that. But this movie, I can honestly say, I did like more as a film. I do have some complaints, and I will get to that. You know, Especially with the intro. Intro has problems with editing. Like we start off back to getting to Deadpool. He's about to commit suicide, and he's gonna like blow himself up. This is spoilers. But honestly, even if it was not spoilers, you could probably guess that he's gonna do some stupid shit that's gonna cause like serious body harm. So because we find out, after his spree of like killing drug dealers and like sex traffickers across the world, Vanessa, his lovely dearest was shot and she died, and you know, like after the more like gallivanting intro of before we get the special like name credits and all that. I say name, but it's not really name credits. They just insert jokes making fun of the different people that worked on the film. But even with that, even though like having the intro of him like fighting different people was weird, I'm not gonna lie, it looked beautiful and it sounded great. Just to hear, it was definitely definitely very stylized. Like you can tell the difference in the director just from that alone. But it goes from here to here way too fast in my opinion. But when we get to when Vanessa dies and he like starts tracking down the guy who killed her, that scene is like actually very well done, and it doesn't have like the jokey joke, all those things with Deadpool in those scenes. And that's a good part to just have breathing space and really to hone in on the emotional weight that the characters currently going under. um, so eventually Deadpool gets wrapped up in meeting Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead back at the expansion, and Colossus still wants to try to reform Deadpool to make him not a murderous like jackass that just like starts chopping heads and shooting people on like the flimsiest of information. But Colossus always wants to see the good in people. Like ever since like the first movie, he was like strong buff dude that whoop your ass, but he was kind of like a gentle giant. He had a lot of like the ideals that Captain America has. He was the Boy Scout. So when he goes to the X Mansion, he starts going around and Professor X, wheelchair and all that, and just acting a damn fool. But one thing I didn't really enjoy, I'm not dissing that at all. Was kind of goofy and kind of fun to see. But what made me like fangirl, like, oh yes, was seeing some of these characters pop up. Storm and like Nightcrawler, and we saw Professor X and all them like in the costumes that they wore at the very end of X-Men Apocalypse, and I can only assume that we're going to see an X-Men Phoenix. So just seeing that, not only does it help their own brand, is like, remember, even though the ink may dry soon on whether Comcast or Disney buys us, we're still coming out with that movie. Don't worry. But yeah, action, pretty much every scene is top notch. There's a whole scene where Cable comes from the future because Russell, this chubby New Zealander kid, controls fire, and because of like the suffering and prejudice that he suffers from like this institution, it just makes him like want to cause more destruction without really thinking about consequences. And there's totally no like real parallels. I don't know what you're talking about. And just the interaction that he has with Deadpool. First Deadpool doesn't want to like fuck with this kid. He's just like, get out of my face. But he starts like feeling bad for this kid, and eventually becomes, I hate to say it, sort of a father figure. At the beginning of the movie, Vanessa was trying to get pregnant and have a child with Wade. I enjoy watching this character on screen, but I do not think that he is father material. But honestly, we have fathers in the real world that that no right should have kids. But Colossus teams up, and they try to take out this kid, and Deadpool feels bad for him in the beginning because he knew that he was being tortured. So eventually they're both put into prison because Deadpool starts killing people that he shouldn't be killing, but he's Deadpool and he does what he does. So they both go to a mutant prison, and I think we saw a cameo of Hugh Jackman with mutant written on his head. I may have to rewatch it to like really confirm it, but if so, that's cool. There's a few comments or sometimes even shade thrown at Hugh Jackman's portrayal of Wolverine in this movie. But Cable is trying to come after this kid because this kid ends up barbecuing his family however many years in the future. So he's hunting them down. He bumps into two rednecks. One of them is like played by Alan Tudyk, which, I mean, Alan Tudyk can really act, but it's still a weird pick in my opinion. I think they also got Matt Damon to play the other one. But Deadpool ends up breaking out when Cable whoops the shit out of him, and they fall into like a lot of ice. Meanwhile, there's a thread in the story that keeps coming back where after Deadpool like lost his beloved Vanessa, he would keep, every time he would near death, he would see her. Either it's in his mind or it's like in the spirit realm. It's mostly to our interpretation, but there's always like this like invisible wall like separating them, and eventually we learned the only way that he can be with her is if he dies himself. And one of the curses of Deadpool is that, you know, if he keeps using his powers or he wants to help people, he can't die. Only the inhibitor collar that they throw on the kid, you know, that can weaken the powers, can do shit like that. Some recurring characters that I did like watching was Depender. Depender probably was my favorite character from the first movie, and I like some of the comedic moments that they give him this time. It feels like, you know, he is more connected in the narrative, because last time it was mostly that he was just drove Deadpool like once or twice. Now he feels more intrinsically tied into what's going on, and you know, even though he can't like fight worth shit, and you know he's a coward, but he's always fun to watch in my opinion. But Deadpool tries to get back the kid in the prison because Vanessa, in his mind, or you know, like the spirit realm or whatever, says, you know, you gotta take care of the kid. And he's like, you know what, I will. So he brings together the X-Force. You know, they have Shatterstar, Zeitgeist, Bedlam, the Vanisher, and Peter, and Domino. And Peter has no fucking powers and just like this dude with a mustache. But he's entertaining to watch. Bedlam is Terry Crews. Vanisher, we find out for like a split second, is Brad Pitt. But you know, all the times, you know, Vanisher is just invisible. And the other person that I do recognize the face is Shatterstar. Shatterstar's actor played Zhu Chang, the drunken master in the Iron Fist MCU Netflix show, which is a show I do defend. I don't care what the fuck any else say. I like that show. But yeah, they all have their interesting powers, and you know, you're just like, okay, they're getting a team together. What's going to happen next? They jump out of a plane, and they're trying to get break out the kid through this prison transport. Cable is also trying to follow them. He interrogates Weasel. You know, Weasel is not good at keeping secrets at all. You know, he you know, I would not disagree if someone said he was a little bitch, to be honest. But you know, all the X-Force members except for Domino and, you know, I guess Deadpool, the leader, all fucking bite the dust. Like, one's thrown into a car, like one's in a wood chipper, one's blended up by a helicopter. They just suck. Domino actually whoops ass. Her power is like luck, and she ends up driving the prison transport that the kid Russell ends up on, and also Juggernaut. I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. I was waiting so much for him to say it, but he doesn't. They did it in like the movie that's not really good, X-Men 3, and you know, it's like one scene I will defend, but I'm just like, well, why couldn't you give us the bitch? I was waiting for it, but most of the dialogue from like Juggernaut I did not enjoy. But you know, they have like awesome fight through the city. I don't know how many fucking people, civilians, fucking died that we don't see. But bridge is destroyed. The kid ends up freeing Juggernaut. Juggernaut rips you know, Deadpool in half. Domino does her thing. Cable just left on the sidelines, but you know, he comes back. He kind of lends out olive branch to the remaining X-Force members. Deadpool goes back to Blind Owl, and Blind Owl is still pretty entertaining. Still they actually come back to when Deadpool said there's hidden cocaine in the first movie. We do see it now, so they're keeping continuity together. But any references to timelines, just take it as jokes because that shit. You know, if you try to make like linear lines connecting everything, your mind will explode. If you're actually trying to fit this into the other movies. Uh, Now, Russell goes on his way to take Juggernaut to attack uh, the suppressors, who are like the like their leaders, like this really Christian dude, and like they got all these guys that like dress up in like white like collared shirts and white pants, and the way that they act in like they detain children and things that they say remind me a lot of how Inuit people were treated by Catholic residential schools in like parts of like Alaska and Canada. Just like how shitty they treated them, and like how they tried to kill the native and save like the Christian child, type of mentality, all that bullshit that had been going on for between 100, between 50 and 100 years, fucking honkies were doing that shit. Anyway, back to the movie. But Russell and Colossus, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Deadpool, they have an interesting fight. All the fourth wall breaking jokes, pretty much everyone, one of those made me laugh. They kill all those like freak guys that had detained them. Russell ends up not killing the headmaster of that institution, and Cable accidentally kills Deadpool, but then he goes back in time before then and saves his life. And that whole scene where in between that time he meets back with Vanessa in that realm or his mind, definitely puts the movie into a good package for me. And I was a little worried like he was just gonna die, he was just gonna end there. I'm just like not because it's like sad or whatever, but it would just feel like a limp story point. But I'm glad that they brought it all together, and Cable ends up saving his family, and he has a character arc where he doesn't think that everything has necessarily be solved by violence. Colossus finds out, discovers himself that you don't always have to play nice with every single situation. Sometimes you have to play dirty. And Deadpool learned the importance of family. He's pretty much hasn't had that since his father left him. And occasionally they keep bringing that back up. So all's happy, it ends well, and he gets like little time like doodad from Cable, and he stops Ryan Reynolds from being in the Green Lantern movie, and he stops. He kills the fucking Barakapool from X-Men Wolverine Origins. I've seen both of the movies. Both of those movies suck. If those could be removed from like history, I don't think there's gonna be that many tears across the nerd sphere. And Negasonic Teenage Warhead, we find out is a lesbian, and she's with this like kind of ditzy, cute like Asian chick with like pink hair and like some kind of like electric chain named Yukio. Sure, why not? The interaction she keeps having, where just saying hi with Deadpool, was kind of cute. If they make any more movies, I wonder if they're gonna like try to develop that character more. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen after this, but you know, I do like this movie better. I think it has better antagonists than the first movie did because so some of like the things that I did not enjoy was a lot of like the character things revolving around Vanessa. Uh, Half the time, I didn't like what Weasel did, and I flat out thought those villains in the first movie just sucked. But this time, I think they are significantly better, especially if you consider Russell as an antagonist. If you consider Cable the antagonist, but I gave the last movie a B plus. I give this movie A minus. There's some parts that I thought maybe this will be an A, but then again I'm just like going back to some parts didn't quite work for me, and some of the editing wasn't quite there. Sometimes it was just too sporadic. But overall, I think if I watch it again, I can definitely feel genuine, saying this is a minus film. So as part of the Krypton Critics, I love you.